Hello everyone, my name is Beatrice and I'm the marketing manager at Cloud.ca. Thank you for joining this webinar. Today we are introducing Cloud.ca, our Canadian cloud. Please note that we will host a similar webinar in French on May 6th. Details about that one will follow. We are really excited to get started. First of all, I would like to introduce our presenters. Marc Paré is our VP of Sales and Marketing, and he will provide you with some general information about Cloud.ca, as well as a use case. François Gaudreau is our Product Manager, and he will walk us through a short demo of the platform. You are welcome to ask questions in the chat log at any time, and we will answer some of them at the end of the presentation. This webinar should last about 30 minutes. Any question we don't address can be answered offline. It's time for me to hand the mic over to Marc. I hope you will enjoy this session with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time and attention today. It's currently 1 o'clock on the nose. We've got about 34 seconds to wait before we'll kick it off here. Just letting a couple of more people arrive. All right, there we go. Thanks, everyone. We've got a full list today, so we'll go through this presentation fairly quickly. We're going to spend majority of the time on a demo, but just to give you a bit of an idea of who CloudOps is and why we built Cloud.ca, and then an overview of what Cloud.ca is. Finally, we'll close it off today after the demo with a success story as well as a question and answer period. So CloudOps is, we've been around since 2005 and focused on cloud infrastructure, solving the needs of web companies and enterprises looking to adopt the value of cloud. We've been recognized in the past year with Deloitte's Technology Fast 50 Award, as well as several years running on the Profit list. And we've been a partner of Amazon since using their technology starting in 2007 and working with companies like Beyond the Rack in 2008. So lots of experience using Amazon. Working with lots of different customers, ranging from international telcos to big brand names and local web companies, as well as large enterprise. We'll discuss Perio in the case study later today. I want to start off with our beliefs. I think understanding where we're coming from really helps understand why we've built Cloud.ca and how we best serve the market. So we really work a lot with organizations that are building their own software. Believe that software eats the world, as Mark Andreessen has said. We also have been using AWS for a long time, and it really rules the public cloud. We're seeing, I think, as Gartner's last report, over 80% of utilization in the public cloud is AWS, and some estimates are 90% of spend is on AWS. So just wanting to call out, we're really big fans of that. As well, we've been increasingly seeing the need for multi-cloud. We'll talk about that some more in the case study. And then finally, recognize that operations matters most. Just having it for dev test is interesting, but pulling it all together and having continuous integration and being able to work across the full digital value chain requires a strong focus on operations. Well, to start with the why cloud, before getting into the why Cloud.ca, really this came about for us because we realized our customers were always wrong. They didn't know how much they needed in terms of infrastructure. They didn't know exactly where they would need it, and then they didn't know when they would need it. This is a result of new projects, of innovation, and looking for market demand, looking to get market fit, product market fit, and what part of the world is adoption. So we realized people are either having too much or too little, and both of those have serious consequences and risk. One way it's been fixed is using private clouds where you have committed capacity that you own and manage, and then linking it to public cloud. This is often referred to as a hybrid cloud. Well, the reason we built Cloud.ca is we saw in working with clouds and AWS the need for Canadian-owned and operated agile infrastructure. 3 key points on that. One was we had customers that had private clouds. They needed to connect to the public cloud, but the latency mattered. So being close to the public cloud was really important. Others who had speed of light around the end user experience they were serving up, it could be something like voice or other applications that really have latency sensitive. So having the cloud in the region mattered a lot. Another one is around legal jurisdictions. Political borders are not changing, and having the data fall under Canadian legal jurisdictions is important. We've got that especially in healthcare, and with a couple of the customers, one of them we'll cover in the case study. Finally, predictable and easy to manage costs in Canadian currency. For those of you using AWS today, I'm sure the last 8 months have been a bit of a surprise as the currency changed. The infrastructure costs have shifted significantly. And as well, when Francois shows the way we set up Cloud.ca, and we do have the ability to make commitments for long-term utilization, and that dollar, those commitments are done in Canadian currency, so you won't have that fluctuation. So that leads to part of the operational model of Cloud.ca is the ability to rent the peaks and lease the base, so utility billing on capacity measured hourly, as well as the ability to commit, saying you need something like 25 vCPU, you know that for the next couple of years, being able to lock that in and get a reduced cost, but then periodically, seasonally, or by projects, you have to burst above that. Through using the same interface, just an ease of bursting to that additional capacity. So Cloud.ca is a regional private cloud. First of all, it's Canadian owned and operated, and a commitment that it will always be Canadian owned and operated. We believe that Canada needs its own utility cloud. We're not out there to become the mega cloud, mega scale cloud and compete with Amazon and Azure. We use those a lot in our own delivery and with customers. But because of the reasons we covered earlier, we felt the need to have one here, also served in the 2 official languages of Canada, being able to support people in French and English. And the proximity, we've covered the speed of light. Well, one of the traits, it's not just enough to have this in Canada because, well, that's basically what we've had for years is hosting. And we needed to move beyond hosting to agile infrastructure. So being able to enable the innovators to serve themselves and do that in a way that the innovators expect to use it with APIs that they can have for continuous development for DevOps teams. As well, on top of that, we've got features which Francois will take us through for ease of collaboration with different environments that can be spun up and managed, including role-based access control. A third trait was reliability. AWS is amazing, but it has SLAs of 99.95% and for an availability zone for all the servers in an availability zone being up. If all of them are down except for one, it doesn't count against the SLA. In our design, we realized not everyone has built their app to run like Netflix does on AWS, that there's a requirement for a more stable infrastructure out there, but that can still integrate into the elastic capacity of AWS. So we designed Cloud.ca without single points of failure, a true N+1 architecture with enterprise-grade components. We even built in security features. Francois will speak to some of that later. It does contain firewalling capabilities and web app firewall. Citrix NetScaler is built into the cloud. And our technical support team is there 24/7 in French and English, and we've got compliance certifications to support A lot of our customers are SaaS looking to respond in RFPs, make sure that they can get the certifications they need in order to be competitive in the market, and enterprises looking to be assured of on the risk management side that they're partnering with someone who has the right certification and processes. And finally, Elastic, the ability to scale the capacity. We've talked about that already before with lease the base, rent the peaks, but also be able to scale the performance. So if you're using a storage tier that has maybe it's 1 IOPS per gig right now, and you're moving to a phase where it's going to be really demanding on the storage tier, you want to move it over with a couple of clicks to an environment that has 5 IOPS per gig or 10 IOPS per gig, or changing your network configurations, that you can also scale the quality of the resources you're consuming, as well as horizontally the capacity, or change the configuration. Doing this all without having to call someone as well. And then finally, utility billing on the elasticity, really hourly based billing that's measured and you can see in real time. In summary of that, Cloud.ca is Canada's cloud infrastructure as a service platform, 100% Canadian owned and operated, with a commitment to always be. With data center located in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver coming soon. All the hardware is owned and operated by CloudOps in these data centers. Runs 24/7 with our team supporting customers in both French and English, and can be used as part of our managed services or standalone as part of hybrid and multi-cloud strategies. And with that, I'll hand this over to François Gaudreau, the product manager for Cloud.ca.
Well, thank you, Mark, for this great overview. So I'm François, I'm the product manager for this platform. So what I'll do today is I'll put some images on these words. So let me flip over to my other screen here. So what I have right now is the login page for the Warrington organization. So a couple of things to actually note here. The first thing is each organization in Cloud.ca has its own dedicated entry point. So the typical use case for that is company name.cloud.ca. The other thing to note is that you have the ability of branding this login page with your own logo or your own colors. And third, you have the language bar right here. Like Mark said, the bilingual support is really important for us, since in Canada we have 2 official languages. So we do support French and also English. So what I'll do right now is I'll log in as an organization admin. I usually take about an hour to show all the feature set of Cloud.ca. But today I'll try to be short and just give you a basic overview. And if you're interested in a more personalized demo session, then we'll be more than happy to provide you that at a later date. So let me log in. This account is actually protected with 2-factor authentication. Again, since we have compliant needs, so 2-factor is a big part of that strategy. So while I put my token, sorry for that. We do integrate with Google Authenticator app and also Authy. So we implement the time-based protocol, which is pretty well known everywhere. So the first thing you see when you log in the platform is the dashboard. So the dashboard allows you to have a basic overview over your capacity and what's going on your infrastructure. So we do have a couple of default widgets, like the instance view per environment, the number of instances running and number of instances stopped. We do have also a recent events widget that shows you who did what when. So here you see I uploaded a couple files on the object storage environment. And then you have some environment metrics widget, which again shows you statistics over the capacity used for your environment. So here it's also customizable. So you can go in the widget and then select the metrics you want to show. So the concept of environments is really important for Cloud.ca. This is what is basically allowing us to um, do role-based access control. So for us, an environment is a virtual container where you can put your compute and object storage resources and then tie in some user rights to these environments. So that means that some users of your organization might have full access to some environments, but might require read-only to some of these environments as well. So this feature allows us to do that. So let's see how it looks like. So in the configuration section, this is where you actually see your different organizations. We do support hierarchy, meaning that we can create sub-organizations. So if you have a reseller use case, or let's say you have different business units in your company, well, you can leverage this feature to actually separate your users into multiple organizations, and you can actually do some usage reporting based on that. So you can do a usage reporting on the top organization, so everybody, but you can also do the usage reporting on the sub-organizations and even at the environment level. And I'll show you that later in this demo. So here in the user page, we have a basic list of the users part of this organization. And when you had a user, of course, you have to put the default information or credentials. Then you can select the default language for that user. And on the bottom here, this is where you actually execute the RBAC. So let's say I want this user to be an environment admin on production, but then read only on QA. This is where you actually implement that. So let's move to the services page. This is where you will have the visibility on your infrastructure and your different resources. And this is where the users will probably spend most of their time on our platform. So what you have here on the left, you have the different environments for the different service connections. So this organization has access to Cloud.ca compute, the Eastern zone, the Eastern region, sorry, and also the object storage for the same region. So here, let's take the compute. The instance list will show you all your VMs, the compute offering, and other information related to the connectivity of this instance. And here we have the different actions we can execute on an instance, stop, reboot, and then the console as well. You can change the compute offering if you like, and then you can create recovery points, so instant snapshots if you want to do roll back. So here in the add instance wizard, this is where you create an instance. We always try to keep it, as simple as possible. So in a single page, you can actually launch an instance. So basically, you put the name, you select your default template, the compute offering, the network where the instance should go, and then you click launch, and you're clear to go. We also support other steps where you can add another volume. You can configure port forwarding rules to give access to some services, and of course we support some automation endpoints with user data, just like AWS does. So you can pass on bash scripts or cloud config information to your instance to install some software or upgrade your instance or whatever use case you can think of. That's pretty useful for DevOps or typical automation of creating new instances. On the VPC page, this is where you manage the different network components. So we standardize our networking concepts over the VPC because it was giving us de facto isolation from the internet to the private networks. So you can create up to 4 tiers. That should represent most of the use case, or especially the web e-commerce use case, where you will see a web tier, a app tier, a database tier, and also a utility tier where you can drop in your Jenkins server, your Chef server, Git, whatever tools you use in your business. In the volume page, this will give you a list of all the storage volumes created for this environment. And this is where you can also do snapshots of your volume if you want to do a data backup or if you want to derive a new template out of that. And on the template, you can import your own template if you want to. So the SSL certificates is a feature where you can upload your certs, your keys, to leverage the SSL offload features of our integration with NetScalers. So in Cloud.ca, all the load balancing is done with NetScalers because of the advanced feature set that was providing us. And finally, you can use SSH keys instead of instance passwords to manage your different VMs. So let's move to the object storage real quick. So in the object storage piece, we built in a object browser to see or have visibility on the different folders or / objects you have in your system. So yes, you can use the API to do that, but sometimes it's easier to actually have a view on the architecture or the content of each of your buckets. So let's take that one, this bucket. Then I know I have one file. From there, I can actually get the URL, either download the file, rename it to something else. I can also upload something straight from the web panel. So it's pretty straightforward, and for users that are less used to APIs, it's a very, very easy way to actually manage and play with the object storage. So let's move to the usage section. This is where you can do reports on how much capacity you're consuming. So you can do that at the organization level or at the environment level. So let's take Warrington Software for the current month. So basically from the 1st of April to right now, this organization actually consumed about $500 worth of resources, and then we have all the breakdown here about the storage, compute, and network resources. But let's say you want to know how much production is costing you over that $500. Well, production costs you $250, and you can do the same thing for QA, so $224. So it really helps you to break down the cost and really see which environments is consuming the most or the less. And in here we have what we call resource bundles. Mark talked about the lease the base, rent the peaks functionality or the way of thinking. This is where you will actually implement such thinking. By doing resource bundle, you can actually commit to a certain amount of resources like CPU, RAM, and storage for a defined amount of time and get a discount on these items. So you will pay less per hour for these items. So the last thing I want to show you today is our help feature. We built in a contextual help widget where you can get the appropriate articles depending on the sections you are in the applications. And this help is actually bilingual. So if I switch to French, I'll show you all the different articles will be translated. So let's say here on the usage section, I get the generate the usage report article because this is where I am right now. And if I move to services and I go to say object storage, now I get articles related to object storage, and here this is an API, how to use the actually object storage API documentation. And if I go here and I switch to French, well, not only the site content changes, but the documentation is also changing to French. So that's it for me. I'll hand that over to Mark to conclude that webinar.
Great, thank you, Francois. So next on the list here, we've got the Pureo case study. A little bit of background on Pureo. They're an end-to-end communications encryption application. Really innovative stuff. I'd recommend everyone check it out. And there's a case study on our website. The challenge they were looking at is they wanted to have their application, even though all the data is fully encrypted, they still wanted to have it deployed in a cloud outside of the US. And they elected Canada, and having Cloud.ca is Canadian owned and operated, have the data run there, and primarily serving out of there, but then they wanted to have a global reach, and they never knew how much capacity they would require. So they deployed in Cloud.ca as well as AWS in a multi-cloud deployment. Cloud.ca costs in this case were around 25% less than those in AWS. As well, having it across two different cloud systems led to a higher SLA they could offer, because the likelihood of failure of one cloud system, a systemic failure, is much higher than the likelihood of two different ones at the same time. So once again, there's more information on Perio. I would like to mention our partner Basho, who is also involved in the deployment on Cloud.ca, and is a technology that Perio is quite happy, and us as the operators using. So that really concludes the presentation side of our webinar. And we can open it up to any questions from the field. So first question I have is on who owns the servers? Well, the actual physical hardware for Cloud.ca is owned and operated by CloudOps. So it's equipment that we own and operate. Next question, how did we beat pricing from AWS by 25%? Great question. We can look at our costs online, and they are in Canadian dollars, so it's on the website. Then compare that to the AWS cost, and we can have a more detailed conversation about that comparison, as well as how our pricing is simplified compared to the AWS pricing. The question on is Basho from React? It is. This is the React solution that was used as part of Perio's deployment. Let's see here. Another one we've got here is, can it be used for VDI and end user compute? We do have that as it's actually a Citrix Ready certified for those who are using VDI with Citrix and XenApp. It has been tested to work well with VMware too, although we don't have a certification program around the VMware workloads, but supports that as well. Another question, if I leave Cloud.ca, how can I retrieve my data? Great question. We definitely, as you're moving into the cloud age, the way you manage and replicate your data, another one of the reasons why we recommend across multiple clouds, we've got another customer, Dubrise, who's deploying a really interesting platform for making music videos with songs that you can grab off of iTunes, like 1.5 minutes for free. Really cool platform exploiting the fair use laws and copyright laws, and they want to make sure a copy of all the data is stored in Canada, but also replicate to AWS to distribute internationally. But all the data level replication is typically handled by at the app and the operations level, as opposed to by the infrastructure itself. So just continuing through some of the questions here. We've got quite a few, with ones broken out across 4 different ones. I think we'll have to go. We're getting a lot that we'll go through these and answer them directly offline for quite a few of them. So that really concludes our webinar for today. We'll have a follow-up on this, announcing the date for the webinar in French, and the link for that. As well, we'll be getting in touch with everyone. I think there's a survey that'll be going out. Really appreciate your feedback on that and your cloud plans, and appreciate everyone's time and attention today. Thank you.